Okay, so we've talked about completing the square and how you do that in the intro video. So now let's actually talk about solving problems by completing the square. So the steps to do this is step 1, move the constant term, which is the number. So in this example right here, this 22 would be the constant. So you move that to the other side of the equation and leave a space. You add, just like you complete the square, so you add the b term divided by 2 squared to both sides of the equation. Then you factor the left side of the equation into a binomial that's something to the second power, then solve using square roots. Okay, I know that was a lot of information. Let's just do one and see what happens. So here's our first example. So the first step said was to move the constant over. So it's going to be like this, right? So that would give me 20 over here, and those would cancel. Perfect. Okay, so now the next step was to complete the square. So my b is 10, so I'm going to do 10 divided by 2 to the second power, which would be 5 to the second power, which is 25, right? So, but here's the thing, you can't just like plug a 25 in here because there's an equal sign, and what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So since I added 25 to that side, I have to add 25 to this side. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do it. Oh, I'm sorry, this is, my bad. You probably already noticed that was negative 20. 2 minus 22 is negative 20. Okay, so then I'm going to factor the binomial. So I'm going to take that half of that b, or this number right here, and put it right there because it's positive, right? So it's x plus 5 squared. And then on the other side, I have what's negative 20 plus 25 would be 5. Okay? Now let's keep going. Now we have to solve. Since that binomial is in, the whole thing right here is being raised to the second power, so therefore I have to take the square root of the whole thing, and what you do to one side you must do to the other. So this is going to be x plus 5 equals, can you simplify the square root of 5? I don't think so. Plus or minus the square root of 5. Let me go back. I went through that kind of fast. So when you take the square root of a binomial, anytime you take the square root of a square, the square root and the square cancel, and you're left with just what's inside, which is what I wrote there. Okay, so now I need to rewrite this as with the x by itself. So I need to minus 5. I know there's a plus or minus in there. That's okay. So you can write this problem as x equals plus or minus square root of 5 minus 5, because you cannot combine, or you cannot add square roots and non-square roots. Okay, so there is your answer. Another way you could write it, I mean it's kind of the long way, but you could do it, would be the square root x equals the square root of 5 minus 5, and x equals the negative square root of 5 minus 5, okay? If that makes you happy, do it, but I'm just gonna write it how I wrote it with the red box around it. Okay, so this next one, let's do another one. First step is, of course, moving your constant over. So I have minus 9, those cancel, and so I have x squared plus 4x plus, and I'm gonna leave a blank to complete the square, equals 7 minus 9 is negative 2. And since I'm going to be adding something to complete that square, I'm going to make sure I do it on the other side too and leave it a little blank, because I know I'm adding something to both sides. Because a lot of times people forget to do the other side and then they mess it up. Okay, so we got our b term is 4, so 4 divided by 2 squared would be 2 squared, which is 4. Right, so we got to add 4 to both sides. So this factors out to be x plus 2 squared, because it's this number right here. And then this equals, what does that equal? Positive 2. Alrighty, we're ready to take the square root. So that just turns into x plus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 2. Move your 2 over by subtracting it. So I have x equals plus or minus the square root of 2 minus 2. Okay, another way you may see it written, and it's okay, if you write negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 2. Okay, so either one of those two works. You actually might see the second one more. Usually they write the constant term first before the irrational number. Okay, so this one, same thing, move that constant over. So those cancel, and I have negative 6, or 1, why did I write it over there? Whatever, pretend those line up. So that would just give me negative 53, right? Then I have x squared plus 16x plus, and then I'm gonna do a blank plus blank so I don't forget. Okay, take your b term, which is 16, so 16 divided by 2 squared would be 8 squared, which is 64. So I'm going to add 64 to both sides. Okay, and then let's go ahead and factor the left. It's going to be x plus 8. Okay, so this would be x plus 8 squared equals, what would that be? 711, right? I think that's right. Okay, let's go ahead and take the square root. So x plus 8 equals this plus or minus, I almost forgot, plus or minus the square root of 11. So let's subtract 8, subtract 8. I'm going to write the negative 8 first. So x equals negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 11. Okay, next one. Let's go ahead and move that 40 over. Okay, so we have x squared minus 14x plus, and I'm going to leave a blank, equals 5 plus negative 40 would be negative 35, and then plus blank over on that side. Let's go ahead and take our b term. This time it's negative, don't mess that up. So this would be negative 7 to the second power, which ends up giving you 49. I'm going to add 49 to both sides. Okay, so now let's talk about this. So since this was a negative 7 right here, whenever you factor it, it's going to be x minus 7 squared. Okay, and then what would that be? 14? Yes. Okay, so let's take the square root. And you have x minus 7 equals plus or minus square root of 14. Let's add the 7. So that would give me x equals 7 plus or minus the square root of 14. A couple more. Oh, wait, hold on. Okay, so mine cut off a little bit. I think it's because I pasted that other document over there on a different video. But okay, so I fixed it. If yours is not fixed like mine, fix it really fast. Okay, let's do it. I'm going to speed up a little bit so we can get through this video. So I have x squared. Oh, sorry. Going too fast. Now I'm messing up. Let's subtract the 12 over. So that'll give me x squared minus 8x plus blank equals negative 12 plus blank. So then your b is negative 8, so negative 8 divided by 2 squared would be negative 4 squared, which would be 16. Hey, this answer comes out nice. So then this would be x minus 4 squared equals negative 12 plus 16 is 4. Let's go ahead and take the square root of both sides. So that would be x minus 4 equals plus or minus 2. Let's add 4, So now I have x equals 4 plus or minus 2. So this one's a little bit different. We actually had a whole number answer when we took the square root instead of an irrational number. So let's talk about it. Whenever, so if there is no square root, you need to solve. So you need to work it out. It's not too bad. So one of the x's would be 4 plus 2, and one of the x's would be 4 minus 2. Not bad, right? So this would be x equals 6 and x equals 2. Okay? Since it's not a irrational number with a square root, again, and they're just numbers, I want you to work it out. Don't leave 4 plus or minus 2 as your answer, because you can simplify it. Okay, another one. So let's go ahead and move that 68 over. So a squared minus 18a plus blank equals, what would that be? Negative 72 plus blank. Okay, so negative 18 divided by 2 squared would be negative 9 squared, which would be 81. So add 81 to both sides. Factor this as a minus 9 squared equals 8, 9, 10. No, it's not right. Can't do math this morning, sorry. So that would be 9. All right, go ahead and take the square root of both sides. So I have a minus 9 equals plus or minus, what's the square root of 9? Just 3. Okay, let's add 9, those cancel. So a equals 9 plus or minus 3. So let's go ahead and work it out. 9 plus 3 would give you 12. 9 minus 3 would give you 6. Okay, last one. So let's go ahead and move that 44 over. So I have to add it. So I have k squared minus 14k plus blank equals, I think, 51. Oops, not 50 plus. 51 plus blank. Okay, now let's go ahead and complete the square. So I have negative 14 divided by 2 squared, which would be negative 7 squared. So that would be positive 49. And then when I factor it, I have k minus 7 squared equals, oh nice, equals 100. Take the square root, k minus 7 equals plus or minus 100. Oh, not 110, sorry. Add 7. So then k equals 7 plus or minus 10. That's a plus, by the way. All right, so okay, 7 plus 10 is 17. And then 7 minus 10 is negative 3. All right, that is it for this video. I know I went quick there at the end. If you need to go back and rewind and rewatch parts that you don't understand, please do. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day.